What's going on, everyone? Corey from Yoda Expedition here. In this video, we're going to be taking a closer look at the ARB differential breather kit. Now, we do have a snorkel on our 4Runner, which is obviously great when it comes to water crossings, but what a lot of people skimp out on is extending the lines on their differentials. So on the front and rear diff of your vehicle, you're going to have a little breather cap, and the potential to get water in that when you're going through some water crossings is high because it's only maybe 18 inches off the ground. So with this kit, it's going to extend those lines from your diffs all the way up to your engine compartment, and the chance of getting water inside your differential oil is going to be really low, if not impossible. Taking a closer look at the kit, inside we have two lines, one for the front and one for the rear differential. Then we have the manifold here, which is what we are going to be mounting in our engine compartment. And the lines are going to be running to this. And then we have some zip ties to mount all of our lines. And we have some air fittings and our instructions. So the first thing I'm going to figure out is where I want to mount the manifold inside the engine bay. So then when I go to run my lines, I know which side of the vehicle I want to run them down. So I'm going to go ahead, pop the hood, and see what we have for room. I know most people put it over here on the driver's side, but we have a power tray here for all of our lighting accessories and stuff, which is taking up a bunch of room. So we have tons of room over there behind the intake. So I'm probably gonna mount it over there. So let's just see if we can figure out where we can mount it to. All right, so in order to install the manifold, you're gonna have to take off the filter, which simply just screws right off. Now, I'm already kind of disappointed because they give you self-tappers to install this, which I really don't like. And looking at them, they barely have any thread engagement. Like once it's through the other side, you have like maybe 2 threads, which really isn't much. So I don't know if I'm gonna use these or not. We'll see. So I'm taking a look over here in the engine bay to see if I can find a threaded hole that I can utilize to mount this. So I have one right here, and then there is one right here, but it's right behind that plug. So obviously that's not going to work. So if I can mount that right there using the one threaded hole, I think one bolt should be enough to hold that. If I can find a bolt that'll work and not interfere with the filter, because you only have so much space in between this and the filter. So I'm gonna see if I can find a bolt, because I'd much rather just thread it into something that's already there instead of using a self-tapper. So yeah.
20 minutes later.
So I ended up running to the hardware store really quick. I got me a M6 bolt that is plenty long to go through the manifold and have threads to go into the threaded hole that is already there. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna get all these fittings put into the manifold, get the manifold bolted into the engine compartment, and then we can get this up on the lift and start running all of the lines. In the kit, you're gonna have 4 fittings. 2 are going to be going on the manifold, and then 1 is going to be going on the rear diff, 1's going to be going on the front diff. So if you do later down the line want to maybe run one of these to your transmission or to your transfer case, you can. You're just going to have to get some more fittings, and then it also comes with 3 plugs. So we're going to be using 2 of these, and the other 2 spots are going to be for a front and rear diff. I'm going to go ahead and get these into the manifold and tighten these up. I'm going to put these on one side and our plugs on the other side. So for the plugs, you're going to need a 3mm Allen wrench, and for these air fittings, you're going to need a 1/2 inch wrench. We got both of the fittings on there as well as both of our plugs. So now I'm gonna go ahead and get this bolted up inside the 4Runner, and then we'll get it up on the lift. So as you can see, I have the fittings facing towards the back, so I can just hook up my lines and run them down. And our plugs facing the front. I'm gonna go ahead and tighten that down. It's not going nowhere. All right, we got the 4Runner up on the lift. We're gonna start at the rear diff. This one's easier to get to. So you can see on the driver's side, on the top, you have this little breather cap right here. So this is gonna be a 14 millimeter. To get this out, I would use a 6-point socket so that you don't take the risk of stripping this out. And if your vehicle is a little bit older or rusty, I would spray this down with some WD-40 first. So here we got the diff breather out, and what this essentially does is just when you're driving and everything is inside your diff moving around, it builds pressure and it needs to release that pressure somehow. So that's what this does. If this for some reason isn't working properly, which I've already had this on one of my older 4Runners where it got rusty and this cap that lets it breathe was no longer doing what it was supposed to do, it ends up pushing the pressure out the sides of your axles and through the seals, and then you'll start to see your diff fluid start leaking out of your axles. So even if you're not doing a diff breather kit, you just want to make sure that these are working properly. I got my new fitting from ARB here. Just double check that it was the same threads and everything's good. This already has some Teflon tape applied to the threads, so we should be good there. And then again, you're going to need a 1/2-inch wrench to put this in. So I'm going to go ahead and get this started. There we go. Obviously make sure you're not going to cross thread it. I don't want to get too crazy. Make sure it's good and snug though. All right, that should be good. So with that one finished up, we're gonna go up front, we're gonna drop the skid plate, we're gonna replace the breather on the front diff, and then we'll start running all of our lines. I got a 12 mil, an extension, and my Milwaukee electric ratchet. If you guys don't have one of these, I would definitely pick one up. I love this thing. But anyway, we're gonna get these 4 12 millimeter bolts out for this skid plate. We're gonna drop this down, and then we'll have access to the front diff. All right, so a little bit change of plans. I'm only gonna do the rear diff. After dropping the skid plate and looking for the breather on the front diff, I couldn't find it, so I dropped the truck down and I was looking up in the engine bay, and I actually found the breathers up there. So then we were like, oh, well, maybe we can do one on the transfer case or the transmission. Well, I found that both of those also have an extended breather that go up to the backside of the engine. So it looks like we are just going to do the rear diff. I should have checked before I got it up in the air, but I just assumed that the front diff was going to be the same as the rear. So we're just going to go ahead and run our rear line up to the engine bay and get that all buttoned up. So right here on the back of the motor, you can see the breathers from the transmission and the transfer case. I'm gonna go ahead and open up these lines. There should be 2 sets in here. I'm gonna get one so we can run it from the rear up to our engine bay. And if for whatever reason you guys don't think that the front breathers are high enough, you could always extend them. But for most cases, that's gonna be perfectly fine. It's almost to the top of the engine. So we're just gonna leave it there. We're gonna do the rear one because that needs to be done, and we'll leave it at that. This is actually just one long line, so I'll just cut it when we get up there. So we have 2 options. We can either run it from our breather down the driver's side, and then once we get to the engine compartment, we can shoot over to our new manifold, or we can cross it over somewhere here underneath the vehicle. One thing you just want to make sure is that you're going to be routing this somewhere where factory stuff is already routed. So fuel lines, electrical stuff, because then you know if you route it in that same area, it's not going to interfere with anything that is moving or gets hot. So we're going to go ahead and start routing this through everything, and let you know what I do. So these are a push type fitting or a shark bite fitting. So you literally just push it in, it locks it in place. It's not going to come out, but if you ever want to take it out, you just depress this. Might take 2 hands, depress that, and you can pull the hose back out, which is nice. So I'm going to start routing this. So I'm going to start attaching it to the wire here coming off the diff. This might be a little difficult because the hose or the tubing is all coiled up, and it's going to want to constantly twist on you. So hopefully you can work with me here. Another zip tie up here. So what I'm probably going to be doing is routing it above the heat shield on the muffler. Once I come out the other side of the muffler, there is a wire loom here, and that's going to run down the side of the frame rail. And then once we get to the engine bay, I can just shoot it straight up and then hook it into our manifold. Right above the heat shield for the muffler, there is a factory clip that has nothing running through it. So I'm going to utilize that, and that'll hold it up above the heat shield, so I know it won't be sitting on that. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and feed it up to the engine bay now. Probably throw one more zip tie right here at the bottom, and then we can head up to the top. Freaking rat's nest here. So I'm pretty much done underneath here. I have the line ran from the rear all the way up into the engine bay. Before I let down, I'm just going to go back through. I'm going to cut all of the extra part of the zip tie off, and then I'll lower the truck down. We'll finish up in the engine bay. Putting the diff cover on that we took off for no reason. I'm going to go ahead and just cut this a little shorter than it is, so it's a little bit easier to maneuver through everything instead of having all of those coils fight me. So I'm going to run it behind this wiring harness here. Make sure it's tight so that it's not touching the cat. Maybe actually what I'll do is put it on top of this clamp, this wire clamp here, to help hold it in place. And then I'll zip tie it there. And I'll have to take one of these fittings out because we're not doing the front diff, so I'll use that third plug that came with the kit. I'll put that in there, and once I have this hooked up, we'll screw on the filter and we're pretty much finished. I'm wondering if I should go underneath the engine harness where it comes out versus on top of it. So yeah, I actually did end up running it underneath where the engine harness is coming out from the firewall. It actually pulled it a little bit further away from the cat, which is good, and it looks a little bit cleaner instead of it running on top. I have this trimmed, so it's pretty much to the length I need. So I can go ahead and just push that in. Make sure it's in there and it's not going to come out. So that's finished. Now we just need to put the filter on. So go ahead and just thread on the filter until that's tight. And we can turn this so that it's straight. And that's it, we're finished. So that's going to be it for the ARB differential breather kit. Now, if for whatever reason you want to extend the front diff, there is extra line and you do have those extra fittings, so you could always do that later down the line. And you obviously don't need a lift to do this install. You could easily just do it on the ground. There's plenty of room underneath your truck to do it. Now that we have the diff breather kit installed, we can go through water crossings and mud holes and stuff like that and have the peace of mind of knowing that we're not going to get any water in our diff oil and potentially have issues down the line. With that being said, if you guys want to pick up one of these breather kits for your Toyota, you can head over to toyotaexpedition.com, or you can click the link down in the description. If this video helped you in any way, make sure to give it a like, and if you're new to our channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button. It'll definitely help us out. Thanks for watching.